Welcome to Jared Scott Outdoors, your source in the field for local outdoor news. This week on Jared Scott Outdoors, we're doing some ice fishing. Now we're all bundled up because we had to snowmobile to get to this point to do some fishing. And that's because we're in a lake that has been open to fishing for some time, but not this area has actually been closed for years and years to fishing. And the only way to access this point is by snow machine. And so we decided to come give this a try. Now where are we at? Well, we're on Ryrie Reservoir. So for years and years, everybody's been fishing for kokanee salmon down by the dam. It's always been closed a mile from the dam. You could only fish in that immediate area by the dam, and the reason being that they were worried about the wildlife in the Tex Creek WMA, all the elk and the deer that come down and winter around the reservoir. Well, they finally decided that the fishermen probably are not going to bother those animals, and so they opened up the entire lake. So there's a few different ways you can access it, and we decided to come to the blacktail portion of it. But because the roads aren't plowed to this point, the only way to get here is by snow machine. We had to do, I don't know, 3 or 4 miles of snow machining to get here. It's snowing again. And so the forecast is it should kind of let off here in a couple hours. So we're hoping we actually get a little bit better weather. But anyways, because of the situation, we came out here and there's nobody here. It started again this year. It's the first year you could do it. But people have been fishing this for the last month. I've heard of people coming out and doing some fishing and catching some fish. Now what kind of fish, I don't know, and that's kind of the interesting thing about this part of the reservoir. If you're down on the lower part by the dam, just because of how deep it is and whatnot, most people are fishing for kokanee salmon. They might be fishing for perch. As you get clear up here in the upper stretches where it's shallow and you're closer to the inlets and stuff, now we've got a better chance anyways, I think, to catch some trout. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to be catching. And again, there's nobody here, so it's not like we can talk to other people and find out. Maybe some other people show up, I don't know. I doubt it's been getting fished that much because it is a new thing. So that's why we wanted to come out and give it a try. It's an exploring kind of trip here. So I've got Cade here. We took him out of school, don't tell his teachers, but Cade, what is it you're wanting to catch today?
All of them.
All of them? All right, he says all of them. So we're gonna show you how it all goes. Again, I mentioned that we had to snowmobile into the lake, and since we were ice fishing, it meant that we had to bring a sled to carry all our gear. It was snowing on us the entire way in, and so we just bundled up as best possible and followed the road to the blacktail area of the lake. Not knowing how thick the ice was, I chose not to take the snowmobile out, and so we parked it and walked out to see what the ice conditions were like. As we got there, there was open water on the edge of the lake in some spots. If a fisherman breaks through the ice when they're ice fishing, it's usually right along the edge where the ice is the thinnest. Heading out a bit further onto the ice to get into some deeper water, we put the auger on the motor and drilled the first test hole. Okay, it's looking pretty deep here. My guess is 6 to 8 inches, so plenty. If you got 4 inches, you got plenty of ice. So we're good to go here. We're gonna definitely head out, and we'll still do some more test holes further out, but I doubt we're very deep right now. I want to get in a little deeper water, so we'll head out a little further and go from there. Getting out into what had to be deep enough water, I went ahead and drilled 10 holes. There was evidence other people had been fishing this area, so that gave us confidence that it might be a decent spot to fish. All right, so our last hole that we did, we checked it and it was 20 feet deep. The water's 20 feet deep. The ice is still about 8 inches thick. We've come out a couple, 200-300 yards now. I'm just gonna drill a line out into the deeper stuff, maybe a little bit more into the shallow, and we'll spread our poles out kind of in a line to see if we can find out where we're getting the bites. And you know, this is kind of a different lake, or at least this area, and then I'm hoping, my thought is that we're far enough up the lake that we can catch some trout too. Rainbows, I think there's cutthroats in here as well, and then of course you got perch and you got the kokanee salmon. I'm expecting the kokanee salmon to be in the deeper water, at least 30 feet, 15 to 30 feet deep. So ideally I get some deeper water for that, but I think the trout might be in the more shallow stuff. So that's why it's kind of a fun exploring trip here to see what kind of fish we catch. And that's why I'm going to set this line up, and we'll just kind of spread out some poles. We'll kind of see what happens, move around with our fish finder, and just kind of go from there. Before we even had all the poles out, one of our lines started to get some bites. Cade was there in a hurry and was ready to set the hook. All right, first fish. What do we got?
Ah!
Nothing.
I felt it. It was on there. I said it.
I saw. All right, back down. Assuming that the fish might be back, I just left the camera rolling while I left to go get the other poles ready, and sure enough, it returned.
Got one. It's a big one!
For being the first fish, it was a pretty nice rainbow.
First fish of the day. I was about 12 feet down, and we were just still putting poles out, and again, I just put it right in, and I hooked it.
He only went 12 feet deep, and we're in about 20 to 24 feet of water here. And most of them I've actually put deeper. So we tried this one at 12 feet and he got a hit immediately. So it might be that that's the magic number, or at least even more shallow. It'll be interesting to see what we find out, if they're sporadic everywhere or if they do seem to like it more closer to shore. But at least that's one fish down. We'll just kind of keep figuring this out and see if we can hone down where we want to focus everything. Now the fishing definitely wasn't hot, but we were still getting enough hits to keep us checking lines fairly often. Admittedly, most of the bites seemed to be gone as quickly as they came, but every now and then we'd feel them on the other end when we tried to set the hook. How's it feel? Nothing? Are you making things up again?
You saw it! And you saw me!
You're making it up, aren't you?
No! You saw me.
Well, we'll get it back in.
You saw me hook it.
After missing another nibble, Cade made a dash to another pole and set the hook on the next fish.
It's a puny one.
Hey,
Right?
that's a perch right there, buddy.
Alright, second fish, and it's a perch. This explains why we're getting a bunch of hits that we're missing, because perch like to nibble.
The weather forecast called for a couple hours of morning snow, but so far it didn't look like it was going to let up anytime soon. Luckily, the fishing didn't let up either, as Cade found himself fighting another.
Well, we got another perch on the same pole. Pretty good size.
The snow just kept coming, and so did the nibbles. As we were catching occasional perch, we figured that most of these bites were probably also perch. I've been sitting here with a fish finder, and it's been marking fish coming through quite often. But I was just missing them, so I switched what I was using. Because that was what I suspected, was we had some perch nibbling, and what I had before just was not catching them very well. So, not doing too bad on the perch. Not real big, not real small though, either. I mean, they're all right. I don't know, we'll probably stick around here for a little bit, catch a few more, and then go ahead and shift, and maybe, I don't know, we'll either go shallow or deep and just try that out to see what happens. But I suspect if we're going for kokanee, they're going to be out the deeper stuff. But anyways, we're catching a few. Every now and then we'd have small breaks without any bites, but sure enough, eventually, at least one of the 10 poles would get hit. Jigging it, at least for these, seems to be the key. We're definitely getting hits, you know, down the line, pretty random on the poles. There's not any one area that seems to be doing better. However, the one that I'm sitting at and actively jigging, I definitely getting a lot more. So if you're after the perch, you know, make sure to give it some action. That seems to be the key. We've had several of them that when we're putting them in that we get the bites and things like that. So little action helps.
Well, we caught enough perch, we're gonna go try deeper water, see if we can get some trout.
Moving several hundred yards further out into the lake, we once again drilled some holes. All right, so we're drilling more holes. We're gonna do kind of the same thing, do some test areas here. We came out quite a ways. Cade, he kept saying, let's keep going, because there's kind of a pinch point out here where it looks a lot deeper. So we're hoping that maybe where it kind of pinches down, all the fish that are just kind of cruising will get pinched down and maybe be higher concentrated here. So we get these poles in and see how deep it is and see if we can't get some kokanee now. Just like before, it didn't take long to get some more action. And like the other spot, many of the bites seemed to disappear quickly. But with time, there were always more hits.
Well, we moved over here and we were setting up the poles, and then we got a bite.
Another perch. A pretty good sized perch.
Well, we're in about 30 feet of water, and we caught a perch.
You better hurry. Did you get it? Oh yeah. All right, what do we got this time, Cade? Oh, another perch.
Oh. Well, as you can see, we got another perch in this new area, and they're only hitting one spot. Oh, it came off. Oh, no. Oh.
There it is. Whoa!
No! Take it.
Sometimes the action was fast, but we still had our slow times. It was a good thing we had 10 poles out to keep just enough action that we weren't bored. The goal was to hopefully get out in some deep water. And we came out here where it's really steep, you know, as far as the terrain coming into the lake. And so we thought, all right, I bet you we're gonna get out into 100 feet of water out in the middle. 32, the deepest we've got. We've kind of done a stretch, 32 actually close to shore, all the way out to 32 out here, and it ranges within about 2 feet. So we're still only in 30 feet of water, even though we went a quarter mile further down. 30 feet is kind of that number that you hope for kokanee. Where that's as deep as it is. I don't know if the kokanee are going to quite get up this far in the reservoir, or if they need deeper water. It's just, I don't know. If I can get them up here. This was again the one I was jigging. Yep, there's a perch. They all kind of seem to be that same size right there. Well, maybe a little bigger. Kate has caught some that are bigger than this one, but motion is the key here for sure. They're getting the other ones, but they definitely bite faster on the ones that we're jigging. There it is. What do you know?
Well, we're catching plenty of perch, but we can't seem to catch anything else.
Set it. Get him?
Yep.
Looky there, Cade. What do you know? Another perch.
Well, we've caught plenty of perch here, and we have about 2 hours of light, so we're going to make another move.
So I don't know, maybe the kokanee are here, maybe they're not. You know how kokanee are, they just swim in schools. So it can be 2 hours before you have any come underneath you. So they might be here, I don't know. But we're gonna go ahead and switch tactics here and actually go into shallow water. We're gonna head back over near the boat ramp, get into more shallow than we have been doing in hopes of actually just picking up the trout that do like more of a shallow area usually. I think that's kind of where they get more of their food. They feed on completely different things than kokanee salmon. And so we'll just try that. We'll go into some, for the last couple hours that we have, we'll head over into the shallow stuff, and I don't know, we might just pick up a bunch more perch, but we'll see. After moving all our gear and getting some of the poles back out, Kate took off running to the furthest pole. What do you got, Kate? Hey! That's another nice rainbow. Off a green jig.
We caught another rainbow, which we're really happy about, and it's only 4 feet deep here.
The closest one to shore, which is like 30 yards maybe, but it's only 4 feet deep here, the water. And so we just put this one down a little bit and actually went and drilled some out deeper, thinking they got to be out deeper than 4 feet. And while we were just getting the last ones worked on, this furthest one here right next to shore got hit, and as you saw, it was a nice trout. So we'll keep kind of our spread out what we're doing here, just so we can still test it, but maybe for trout, shallow. I don't know. We'll see if it was a fluke or not. After that catch, we went back over to where our chairs were to get the rest of the poles out, but just as quickly, we're headed back. Feels a little bigger. Another trout.
Looks like the trout are closer up, shallower.
That's a nice one.
Maybe we should move some more poles down here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, we caught another trout in our shallowest pool, so we're gonna move some poles.
Maybe it wasn't a fluke, because again, we're in 4 feet of water. We've got 10 poles out. You know, you can have 5 poles per fisherman when you're ice fishing. And we're maxing that out just to, you know, test everything. And out of 10 poles, again, that's both fish now have been on our one that is the very furthest in. So yeah, we may as well grab some more. Maybe it's the jig, I don't know, because that's the only green jig that I'm using as well. And maybe we'll switch that too, but something's working over here. With the bite being so close to shore and in shallow water, we drilled a couple more holes near where those 2 trout were just caught. Oh, well, we brought this pole over to the same depth of water that Cade was fishing. His is just right here, and he caught 2 trout. I caught another perch. So I thought for sure I had a trout, and it was a perch. But either way, that is interesting that this shallow water is catching the fish, where we had them out to 16 feet deep and nothing there. So we're starting to move a few of them in and see what happens in the shallow stuff. The next bite wasn't actually one of the lines in the most shallow water.
Well, we caught another perch in 6 or 7 feet of water. Apparently there's everywhere.
Cade, what did you think of today's fishing trip?
It was fun.
It was fun, huh? So, you know, it was interesting. We caught a lot of perch for sure. He caught 3 trout. You know, we didn't ever get into the kokanee. It was kind of fun just to try different things out. You know, as you saw, we got those 2 trout here right at the end in the really shallow water. Whether that was a fluke or not, I don't know. So you guys are gonna have to come out and check it out yourself. See where you catch the trout. See if you can catch some kokanee. I think you probably got to get in some deeper water. But either way, we had a good time. I spent, you know, some good quality time here with Cade, and we had some fun. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to the Jared Scott Outdoors YouTube channel.